Abling paradox, the tendency for a group to make a decision that no one really wants simply in order to get along. Advisory or counseling role, the relationship between the human resource department and the line managers that provide advice and counsel and shares the authority for deciding what to do. Baby boom, the period of time following World War II when there was a significant increase in the birth rate in the United States. Balance sheet, a statement of financial position that reports a company's assets, liabilities, and equity as of a specific point in time, such as the end of the company's fiscal year. Balanced scorecard, a strategic management performance tool that assesses how well an organization is meeting its goals by evaluating both financial and non-financial key performance indicators. Birth dearth, the decline in the birth rate that occurred during the Great Depression. Birth rate, the number of live births per thousand population. Born global, organizations that are formed as global firms from the outset. Bounded rationality, the assumption that the most obvious information available is adequate to make a decision. Brainstorming, a group technique intended to promote creative thinking by asking all members to contribute their ideas without risk of criticism. Bureau of Labor Statistics, an agency in the Department of Labor that collects and publishes information about the labor market. Budget, a plan that describes expected income and expenses over a period of time. Cash flow statement, a report of cash flow of cash in and out of a company, showing changes in the balance sheet and how those changes affect the availability of cash. Centralized authority, a characteristic of organizations in which the authority to make organizational decisions is retained by top managers within the central office. Change agent role, the role of HR managers when they supervise or guide an organizational development intervention. Civilian labor force, all employed or unemployed persons 16 years of age and older who are not military personnel nor inmates of penal or mental institutions or homes for the aged, infirm, or needy. Code of ethics, a set of rules that identifies the values that members of the organization, and especially its leaders, consider to be important. Cognitive limits of rationality, the inherent inability to weigh all the factors of possible outcomes in making a decision. Competitive advantage, a position of relative advantage over one's competition. Competitor analysis, an analysis of each organization with which a company directly competes. Conflict of interest, a situation where a person who has a responsibility to act in the best interest of a company may receive direct personal benefit from his or her actions at the expense of or to the detriment of the company. Control role, exists when the Human Resource Department has the authority to make decisions regarding personnel policies and procedures that line managers are required to follow. Cooptation, a strategy of bringing outside people into the organization and making them feel obligated to contribute because of their organizational involvement. Core competency, unique skills or resources that give an organization a competitive edge. Corporate governance, the system by which an organization is administered, directed, and controlled. Cultural artifacts, the visible symbols and objects that are unique to an organization and that suggest the kinds of shared beliefs and expectations of members. Cultural values, the social values that are shared among the members of an organization and tend to regulate their individual behaviors and induce collective conformity. Current population survey, a survey of about 60,000 households that is conducted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Personal interviews are conducted monthly to determine participation in the workforce, unemployment, and reasons for not working or for only working part-time. Decentralized authority, a characteristic of organizations in which an authority makes organizational decisions is delegated to lower level managers and supervisors. Delphi technique, a problem solving technique that requires experts to independently come up with a proposed solution, then review all the proposals and make additional suggestions until a consensus solution emerges. Devil's advocate, an individual who is given the role of intentionally taking an opposing side in a discussion in order to challenge the group to think carefully. Diffusion of responsibility, a group attitude in which responsibility for decisions is spread out among all members, so the group is more willing to take risks than they would be on their own. Division of labor, the process of dividing work into specialized jobs that are performed by separate individuals. Effectiveness, a measure of the entire cycle of obtaining input, transforming them into useful products, selling them, and obtaining more inputs. Efficiency, a measure of how well an organization creates products from the material and energy used to produce them. It is a ratio of inputs to outputs. Emotional intelligence, an individual's ability to monitor his or her own emotions and the emotions of others and to use emotional information appropriately. Employment exchange, an agreement in which an individual agrees to provide labor in exchange for rewards offered by the organization. Empowerment, providing the conditions that stimulate followers to act in a committed, concerned, and involved way in doing their work. Enterprise resource planning, a computer-based system that integrates the various processes throughout a business, such as inventory, order management, production, customer service, accounting, and human resources. Environmental scanning, an examination of demographic and social forces influencing the long-term composition of the labor force and the future availability of employees. Environmental uncertainty, the degree of predictability in an organization's environment as determined by the complexity of the environment and how rapidly it changes. Escalation of commitment, the tendency to feel such ownership over a decision that an individual or group increases their level of effort to make it succeed, to the point that they will even waste time and money in the effort. Expatriate, an employee who is assigned to work in a foreign country. External adaptation, how the organization responds to the external environment and the changes that occur in it. Fertility rate, the average number of children born to a woman during her lifetime. The fertility rate of 2.1 represents zero population growth. Field experiment, a research study that occurs in a natural setting of an organization and where an independent variable is manipulated to determine its effects on the dependent variables. Field survey, a research study in which variables in an actual organization are measured and correlated, sometimes called a correlational study. Five forces model of competition, a model that identifies the major environmental forces that determine an industry's profit potential. Functional authority, the authority exercised by the Human Resource Department when it is authorized to establish policies and procedures and monitor compliance with them. Functional departmentalization, an organizational structure where jobs are assigned to units or departments by function. Gap analysis, a method which consists of comparing the current situation to the desired situation in order to identify the gap or the changes required to reach the desired state. Global firm, an organization which has strategic corporate units in multiple countries that interact both with the headquarters and with each other. Global outsourcing, when an organization contracts with a foreign company to perform one or more of its process. Groupthink, a situation in which the dynamics of a group produce lazy thought patterns, unquestioned consensus, and poor decisions. Hawthorne effect, named for the Hawthorne studies, where researchers noted that employees changed their behavior when they were observed. HR competencies, skills and abilities that all human resource managers ought to possess. HR dashboard, the process of collecting HR metrics and presenting them to managers in a useful format, sometimes referred to as an HR scorecard. HR metrics, specific indicators that are used to measure progress or achievement. HR scorecard, the process of collecting HR metrics and presenting them to managers in a useful format, sometimes referred to as an HR dashboard. Human resource accounting, identifying and measuring the value of a firm's human resources using standard accounting practices and communicating this information to interested parties, especially investors and managers. Human resource audit, an evaluation of how well the human resource department is performing its responsibilities and objectives. Human resource business partner, an employee who consults with top level managers and collaborates with the HR department to ensure that HR policies and procedures are in line with and support the strategy and objectives of the organization. Human resource generalist, a human resource manager who is required to understand all of the major personnel functions and how they interact with other business functions. Human Resource Information System, HRIS, a collection of information about the people working for the organization, usually stored in a computer-based system. Human Resource Management System, HRMS, a computer-based system that performs a large number of human resource activities, such as payroll, performance management, and attendance tracking. Human Resource Outsourcing, contracting with outside specialists to perform human resource functions. Human Resource Specialist, member of a department who specialize in a particular human resource function, such as staffing, compensation, or employee relations. Human Resource Value, the expected financial contribution to a firm's net income for individuals at various levels in the firm. Income Statement, a report of a company's income, expenses, and profits over a certain period of time. Inducement Contribution Balance, the balance achieved in an employment exchange where the reward offered by an organization are roughly equivalent to the contributions that an employee is required to make. Integrating Mechanisms, methods for coordinating the activities of an organization that vary in the amount of discretion they allow members. 5 methods range from direct supervision to mutual adjustment. Internal integration, how the organization coordinates its internal systems and processes. Laboratory experiment, a research study that is conducted in a controlled environment where outside influences can be eliminated or controlled. Lagging indicator, measures the result of a process or a change such as sales, profits, and customer service levels. Leading indicator, a measure that precedes, anticipates, or predicts future performance. Line authority, the authority to make decisions and to direct the performance of subordinates in production, sales, or finance-related activities. Local national, workers who are hired by a multinational corporation to work in their own country. They are also called host country nationals. Matrix structure, a combination of 2 different forms of departmentalization, usually functional and product departmentalization. Multinational enterprise, M&E, a global firm that has corporate units located in foreign countries. Part of its goods or services may be produced in one country, then possibly moved to another country for additional assembly, and ultimately distribute to other countries to be sold by employees of the firm. Nominal group technique, a problem-solving technique that asks all group members to come up with solutions in advance, then present and discuss it together. Each individual in the group then ranks the solution independently. The results of that ranking determines the group decision. Non-programmed decisions, new or complex challenges that require more than a simple, structured decision-making procedure. Normal distribution, a bell-shaped pattern of responses where the scores tend to be concentrated near the middle, with fewer scores near the ends of the distribution. Offshoring, when an organization relocates one or more of its processes to another country, usually to save on cost. Organizational capabilities. The capacity of the organization to utilize the collection of skills, talents, technology, training, and experience possessed by the members of a firm to achieve its strategic goals. Organizational climate. The characteristics describing an organization that are relatively visible and stable, but amenable to change. Organizational culture. The shared beliefs and expectations among the members of an organization that are relatively enduring and resistant to change. Organizational myths. Significant stories that are told about an organization in earlier years that impact the way members think about its history, even if they are not true. Outlay cost. A human resource accounting measure that represents the cost of recruiting, selecting, and training the present employees. Outsourcing. The practice of contracting with outside specialists to perform selected human resource functions. Parallel testing. A method of testing which involves operating both the new and the old HRIS systems simultaneously for a period of time to ensure the new system is functioning properly. Participation rates. The percentage of a particular group, such as males or females, who are participating as employees in the labor force. Pest analysis. An analysis that examines the political, economic, social, and technological factors in an organization's environment. Pestle analysis. An expansion of the pest analysis that adds legal and environmental factors. Product departmentalization. An organizational structure where jobs are assigned to units or departments by product. Productivity. An index that is calculated by dividing the total output of goods and services produced in society by the total number of employee hours required to produce them. Professional Employer Organization, PEO. Companies that contract with employers to manage human resource functions and employer liability by contractually assuming employer rights and responsibilities. Program decisions. Repetitive, routine decisions for which a simple decision-making procedure can be developed. Regression analysis. A statistical technique for predicting the value of one variable by a weighted combination of other variables. Reliability. Repeatability or consistency of measurement. Replacement cost. A human resource accounting measure that estimates how much it would cost to replace a firm's existing employees in current dollars. Request for proposal, RFP. A formal standardized document that explains the scope of a project and asks for a bid from vendors. Risky shift phenomenon. The tendency for a group decision to be less conservative than an individual decision, since no individual will be held directly accountable for the result. Rites and ceremonies. The special events in organizations that recognize individuals and the ways they are treated. Satisficing. The tendency to accept the first solution that seems adequate instead of searching for the best solution. Service role. Exists when the human resource department provides assistance to line managers according to the request. Shared assumptions. The foundation belief that impacts how people think about and respond to organizational events, but which are mostly subconscious. Shared norms. The common expectations that guide the behavior of organizational members. Shared service model. An alternative to or type of outsourcing where HR functions are centralized at service centers to promote HR expertise and to deliver improved company-wide services for large diversified companies. Simple random sample. A sampling method that involves placing all employees in the sample population and drawing the sample at random. Span of control. The number of subordinates assigned to a supervisor. Solomon four-group design. The most highly recommended experimental research design. Participants are randomly assigned to 4 groups. 2 groups are pre-tested. One of the pre-tested groups and one of the non-pre-tested groups participate in the experimental treatment, and all 4 groups are then measured. Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This law requires publicly traded companies and their independent auditors to demonstrate that their numbers are accurate and that they have processes in place to ensure accurate reporting. Several sections of the law have important implications for human resource activities. Staff authority, the right and responsibility to advise and assist those who possess line authority. Stratified random sample, the tendency of a group to put their own or the group interest ahead of the larger organizations. SWOT method, a popular approach to strategy development which involves analyzing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Third country nationals, employees working for an international firm who are citizens of neither the home country nor the host country, usually technical or professional employees hired for short-term assignments. Transactional leadership, a style of leadership that focuses on accomplishing work by relying on contingent rewards, task instructions, and corrective actions. Transformational leadership, a style of leadership that focuses on communicating an organization's vision, building commitment, stimulating acceptance, and empowering followers. Unemployed, persons who are not employed but who are available to work. Unobtrusive measures, data that are obtained without influencing the behavior of the persons being measured, such as archival data. Validity, the quality of a measurement referring to its ability to actually measure or predict what it's intended to measure or predict. Value chain, a strategic concept showing the relationship between companies. Each firm represents a link in the chain of value that receives input from suppliers, adds values to them, and passes them on to buyers. Virtual expatriate, an expatriate manager who, instead of relocating, lives at home and works long distance.